How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado. Today, if you Googled what it's like living in Denver, Colorado, you are absolutely in the right place. Now, honestly, I made this video about a year ago, but a lot has changed since then. Crime is down significantly, housing has shifted, we've got a new Broncos stadium in the works, and some of the biggest developments the city has seen in decades are actually breaking ground. So whether you're watching this for the first time, whether you're coming back and getting an update, we have a lot of ground to cover in a short period of time, and we're starting right now. All right, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everett. And if you're researching a potential move to the Denver Metro or anywhere along the Colorado Front Range, this is absolutely the channel for you. We cover that and more. And as a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado, I am helping people like you move here each and every day. So the number and email you see on your screen, just know that I am always a resource for you if and when you need me. Now let's get to what you're here for, and that is, what is Denver really like in 2026? So let's start by talking about the actual size and scale of Denver, because when you Google Denver, Colorado and population, what you're going to see is a population of about 735,000 people. On its own, that does not sound massive, but the Denver metropolitan area, which is 10 counties deep, sits at about 3 million, about 3.05 million people based on the most recent data. And that is a real number that matters. That's a substantial amount of people. Unless you're in New York and LA and you're gonna say, that's like a neighborhood. Now, the other thing that you might find interesting is that over the last handful of years, the amount of population in Denver proper, the city itself, has actually shrunk. But from 2020 to 2024, the population of the metro area increased by 82,000 people. That is actually, to me, a really good sign, because it's talking about the population spreading into suburbs, Douglas County, Weld County, Broomfield, Jefferson County. And that's where people tend to plant roots. That's where they tend to buy homes. That's where they tend to build communities. Not to say that people don't do that in the city, but if you look at the downtown area specifically of Denver, it's not really a family-focused area. You don't see a lot of families living in the heart of Denver like you might in a New York City. That always comes to mind in Manhattan. Denver's not really like that. So that population growth in the suburbs, to me, is a very positive sign for the city as a whole. And something I found interesting is that a Bank of America report from early 2026 actually found that the Denver Metro is attracting transplants at the third fastest rate in the nation. So people are still coming here. They're just not necessarily coming here to live in Denver proper. And a bit of that flux where you get people who come into Denver proper and the people that are already there are spreading out into these neighboring communities. So as I mentioned, let's frame what Denver is. Denver is not a New York, it's not an LA, it's not a Chicago, it's not even close. And I think that's the appeal for a lot of people. Denver is a mid-major city with big city access. You've got 5 professional sports teams, you've got world-class concert venues, including Red Rocks, which is nationally, globally renowned. You've got legitimate food and craft beers. You've got an international airport that can get you just about anywhere and is currently, in the process of upgrading itself to get you to even more locations. There is a lot going on in Denver for the positive. But at the same time, it doesn't crush you. Now, the commutes can be annoying, and there is data that says Denver's one of the most annoying or tricky cities for commute. But the neighborhoods actually have character. You can leave your house. We always talk about you can leave your house and be in the mountains in 30 minutes. You can be downtown to watch the Nuggets in 20 minutes. So there is a convenience factor to Denver compared to major, massive cities. And what I've long said and had people respond to is that if you're coming from a city like an Austin, Nashville, Charlotte, Seattle, that's the comparison. Denver is in that tier. There's enough going on that you're not missing out, but there's not so much that you're just kind of losing yourself in the city. So when we're talking about Denver, what has actually changed since the last video I made? About a year ago, we're talking about living in Denver. Well, the biggest thing to me that I just want to get out of the way is crime. And that may not be the most important thing to a lot of people, but it's a huge factor, because Denver absolutely got destroyed by headlines over the last handful of years. And listen, a lot of it was deserved. There's really no avoiding it. In 2021, Denver recorded 96 homicides. That was the highest number since 1990. You had car thefts out of control. I believe there was a period where Denver was ranked number one, not exactly where you want to be for car thefts. Property crime was rampant. People did not feel safe going downtown. And listen, I was one of those people, I mean, I think all of us were acknowledging we've got a problem. Things are out of control here. This is not good. Well, in 2025, we were down to 37 homicides. Now, you might, I don't know where you're coming from. You might hear that number, and I'm not saying that it's not significant, but it's a 48% reduction year over year. It's the third fewest homicides that Denver has had since 1990. And if you account for population growth, it's the second lowest homicide rate since 1990. To me, that's pretty substantial. Is it fixed? Do we not have a problem anymore? Of course not, but certainly trending in the right way. And it wasn't just homicides. Auto thefts dropped 36%, non-fatal shootings dropped 33%, burglaries were down 16%. The Council of Criminal Justice ranked Denver's homicide decline as the largest major U.S. city decline that they tracked. Bigger than LA, bigger than Chicago, bigger than New York. Denver's drop in homicide rate was the largest in the nation. And again, am I telling you that all of a sudden, Denver's a utopia and you should go anywhere you want, bring your kids out in the middle of the night? Of course not. There are still issues. Our violent crime rates are still above the national average. There are still pockets of the city that have issues. There's still a lot of talk about areas around Union Station, parts of Capitol Hill that actually saw an increase in crime rate. 5 Points still leads the city statistically in violent crime reports. So there are still challenges to this city, but compared to what some of these headlines were talking about in 2020, 2022, this is a vastly different city, at least in my humble opinion. And listen, let's talk about housing as well, because that's obviously something that a lot of people, if you're considering moving here, you're going to be looking into. And as of early 2026, the median home price in the Denver metro sat around $565,000 to $585,000, depending on which site you were looking at. Now, realistically, that is very level from last year. We actually saw overall home prices that were down roughly 3.6% or so year over year. Redfin actually shows a median sale price of $565,000 in February 2026. And I don't want to get in the weeds too much there. I just want to be clear on what this means to you. Because if we're talking about a detached single family home, the median is probably around $584,000. If we're talking condos, it's more around $400,000. And the biggest shift that we continue to see here is how, I don't know if you could say reasonable, but how rent prices have decreased and become more and more affordable over a period of time. There was absolutely a period, during COVID especially, where rent prices were insane. And they have certainly leveled off. And I'm hearing a lot of conversations with people where they go to renew a lease and the landlord, the property manager actually comes back to them either at the same price they're already paying, or actually in many cases decreasing their rent to get them to stay, if I can get my mouth to work for me. So a lot of positives from an affordability standpoint. And obviously this all bleeds into, there's pros and cons to everything, but a good sign as far as housing affordability here in Denver. But again, let me be clear. Denver is still well above the national average when it comes to cost of living. This is not a cheap city. You've got a lot of factors at play. I have to mention homeowners insurance has spiked, the average premium in Colorado being pretty significant. Hail and wildfire risks continue to be real for us as far as our affordability. Just going out at night, enjoying yourself can get pretty pricey, bars, restaurants, etc. So Denver's by no means cheap, but certainly, at least from a housing standpoint, this slow progress towards a more affordable situation several years out, but again, similar to crime, not fixed, but trending in a good direction. And again, we're going to get into some positive things, I promise, but in my last video, I also talked a lot about the homeless and migrant situation here in Denver and how, it was a significant challenge at the time. And listen, the Denver homeless situation was out of control during COVID. Tent cities, just people everywhere. The migrant crisis that came in around 2024 really put Denver in the national headlines. We were everywhere. And the city was struggling to house thousands of people. I mean, we're talking about a pretty massive issue. Where are we now? Well, the tent encampments are largely gone. The city has cleared most of them. The migrant situation has stabilized significantly. And many who arrived, they found employment. They've moved on to other cities. The emergency shelters have scaled back. So again, I'm saying, is it fixed? No. But, are we experiencing a vast improvement? Absolutely. There are still areas of homelessness. You're going to see it downtown. You're going to see it along Colfax. You're going to see it under certain overpasses. That is every major city in America. It's every major city in the world. But compared to where Denver was in 2023 and 2024, the visual improvements are staggering overall. And listen, I think the city's approach has been pretty positive. I think Mayor Johnston, he gets a lot of heat and some of it very well deserved, but I think the combination of enforcement and services is moving in the right direction. Far from perfect. Far from perfect, and there's some things I'd like to see changed, but the direction is right, the effort is visible, and whether the progress is maintained, that's the real question to me. Do we continue to move in a good direction? Now let's talk about the things that hasn't changed, but is actually a good thing because it's kind of awesome. I mean, the weather here remains one of the biggest draws, and it's genuinely underrated as far as how most people have experienced it. Now, what makes this unique, I would say, and not something that I really planned on this video, we always talk about Denver having 300 days of sunshine. We talk about the summers and the weather getting into the 80s and occasional 90s. And we talk about dry heat. We talk about winters being mild, by northern standards. Well, this winter that we are currently ending, I mean, we're in, April now. I had to look at my watch like that was going to tell me. We're in the beginning of April. And we just had probably the most odd winter that I have experienced, 48 years of life. It snowed maybe 4 or 5 times this entire winter. We had more days in the 80s this winter, 80-degree temperatures. I believe it was in the month of March. We had more days of 80-degree weather in one year than we had in 25 previous years combined. The ski slopes, a lot of images of ski slopes with very little snow, and now this time of year, just people skiing on mud. This is a year that is creating some concern. Very abnormal. We've had some dry winters, and certainly we've had droughts in Colorado, wildfires always being a risk here. But this is the first time that I can recall, living in Denver, and I shoveled my driveway maybe twice. So we'll see how that plays out, and that might be very much a part of my video next year. Now we're going to get into summertime, and again, not knowing really what to expect from this summer, but typically, Colorado is just a state that makes you want to get outside a lot. So listen, we need snowpack, we need water, but that aside, this was a pretty fantastic winter as far as enjoying the outdoors. This summer I would expect for the same thing, and that always goes to what is the lifestyle like. Under normal circumstances, I'd be talking a lot about skiing and getting outdoors. The mountains being a little dry this year, but the Rocky Mountains, people coming to Colorado are coming for that experience. They're coming for the fact that the Rocky Mountains are right in their backyard. And that hasn't changed, and the beautiful thing is, it's never going to change. Skiing, hiking, mountain biking, paddle boarding, trail running, camping, it's all within 30 minutes to maybe at max 2 hours from your front door, depending on where you're coming from, to these incredible attractions that bring people here. And even people who aren't mountainy still enjoy getting out there. And here's the thing that I think that people may miss, just to be fair, is that you don't have to be a mountain person to live here. I have friends who have never been skiing, but they enjoy walking trails in their neighborhood. They hit the city parks. They go to Sloan's Lake or Wash Park on the weekends. So the outdoor culture doesn't mean that you have to strap on your mountain bike, helmet and get out on a trail. It just gives you a lot of excuses living here in Denver to enjoy being outside, whether you're at a concert venue, whether you're at a city park, whether you're up in the mountains, you name it, there's so many reasons to get outdoors here. Now, as we've seen nationally, the job market certainly shifting in different areas, and Denver's not exempt from that. So Denver's economy remains pretty diverse. We've got tech, healthcare, finance, aerospace, education, energy. And so the job market here, oil and gas, I always have to mention, is not a one-trick pony. It's one of the things that makes Denver as strong a city today as it has ever been, is that we're not leaning on one industry to keep us going. The median household income in Denver sits at about $94,700, call it 95 grand. That's above the national average, and it definitely reflects the type of talent that this city tends to attract. Now, according to data, the state's largest age group is 28 to 33 years old, and this is a young working city by and large. And Colorado is the second most educated state in the country, with nearly 43% of its residents holding at least a bachelor's degree. So very interesting there in that context. Now, I will add, because of the population here, the education value, all these things, competition for high-paying jobs is real. I mean, I would give anything for somebody to find a job here in the city making, the mid six figures or low six figures, I should say, that is not competitive. I mean, heck, I would start a channel based on that alone. So expect competition for jobs. I always tell people, if you're getting ready to move here, have that figured out ahead of time. Now, one of Denver's biggest strengths to me, and one that people tend to have the most positive reviews of, are these just genuine neighborhoods with different characters and different energy, different vibes, if you will, that thrive all throughout Denver. And really, it's the fact that all these different neighborhoods have their own personality. Some of it changes over time. Some of it's actually gotten better as the city's matured. I have to tell you, without a doubt, it's one of my favorite things. So you've got these neighborhoods like the Highlands that are walkable, trendy. You got great restaurants. You got Rhino with art districts and breweries and murals everywhere. You got South Broadway, filled with bars and vintage shops and live music. You've got Lohi, which is Lower Highlands, still part of the Highlands, and that's filled with rooftop bars and mountain views, some of the best areas to just kind of walk around and just see the city. You've got Cherry Creek, if you want upscale, you want shopping and dining, you've got areas like that. There are all these communities. And listen, if downtown isn't your thing, here's another amazing thing that we're really enjoying about the Denver Metro, and that is the fact that you've got all these great suburb downtowns. You've got Old Town Arvada, which has a pedestrian-only district filled with shops and restaurants and places for, whether you're by yourself, couple, family, you name it. You've got downtown Littleton, which feels like its own small town. It's one of my absolute favorite places in the entire city. You can get over to Parker, which is in southeast sector of Denver, has a great downtown area. Golden has, foothills right there. You're in this valley in Washington Avenue, walking down it with all of its shops and the welcome, the welcome to Golden sign with the mountains in the background. So you've got all these different areas to explore that don't necessarily pigeonhole you into just going to one location to enjoy the amenities. And as Denver has evolved, so too has its diversity. So, is Denver, New York, or Miami, or LA? No, not by any means, but the current breakdown is roughly 59% white, 9% black, about 4% Asian, and about 27% Hispanic when you, again, include this for census reporting. And as someone myself, my wife being from Venezuela, meeting these different cultures, Colorado and the Denver Metro, to me, has been a pretty welcoming environment. There's a lot of these great groups, a lot of people interconnected, continues to grow in that way. Certainly the Latin community is very strong here in Colorado. That's been a nice pleasure for me. Now that we have a kiddo, getting her into that community has been fantastic. So it continues to go in a positive direction. Like I said, is it the same as you might find in a major city like New York? No, we'll probably not catch up to New York. I don't think that's in the cards for us, but certainly moving in the right direction. And listen, I get asked enough in the comments, so let's just cover some things real quick as far as politics. So Denver and the metro area tends to lean blue. Colorado overall leans blue, but let's have a reality check real quick. One, there are absolutely more conservative leaning suburbs and counties in the metro area. Douglas County, parts of Weld County, El Paso County to the south. Even within Denver itself, you will see differing opinions within neighborhoods, without a doubt. This is not just a pure blue community. Again, whether you're into that or not into that, I'm just giving you the facts here. What I'll say is this: the pendulum swing that went hard left right around COVID, and yes, led to some policies that didn't serve the city very well, there's been a correction. Not a flip. This is still certainly a blue leaning community and state, but there's been more moderation, and you're seeing that. You're seeing the cleanup of tent encampments, the focus on public safety, the investment in downtown revitalization. That's practical governance, regardless of which side you lean on. So at the end of the day, like, why do I choose to live here? Why do I love living in this city? I mean, I talk about the fact that I'm a Colorado native, but listen, I've lived in New York, I've lived in basically Cleveland, I've lived in Hawaii, I've lived in Connecticut, and I came back here because I'm raising a family here on purpose. I mean, this is the plan. I feel safe raising my daughter here, and that's number one. Beyond anything else, I feel comfortable taking her to parks, walking neighborhoods, exploring different suburbs, taking her downtown. 99% of the metro area feels completely safe to me. I am confident going there, aware of my surroundings, but I feel great about it. I love being active and part of the community. I mean, nobody forces it on you. If I want to summit a 14er, I'm a hiker, I don't really do 14ers. You know, I can do that, more power to you. But if I'd rather grab a beer on the patio in the Highlands, it's right there. If I want to go to a concert at Red Rocks, it's right there. The community is real here. You know, my neighborhood is a mix of people from all over the country, all sorts of different backgrounds, and we just connect. We got grills going, we got kids running around, we got people actually wanting to talk to each other as you get more and more connected. And that's not every city, and I don't take it for granted. I love the fact that you have nature and city so close together. I love the fact that I could be downtown. You know, we went to the theater, which is not the most random thing for us. We went to the theater, took us 20 minutes to get down there. Today, we're gonna go up to the mountains. It's gonna take us 20 minutes to get there. The restaurant and bar scene keeps getting better. I think, you know, Denver's food scene tends to get harsh criticism. I think it's getting better and better. And the seasons, again, with the exception of this winter, we have all four of them, that we get to experience all the realms of life. I'm also a huge fan for Denver's future. The developments that, in my opinion, are going to change everything, or at least a lot of things, substantially. And to really talk quickly about those. First, you got the new Denver Broncos Stadium at Burnham Yard. I'm a season ticket holder of the Broncos, have been for, well, my family since 1989. We've been here for a while. I am psyched about this. First, the Denver Broncos officially selected this Burnham Yard. It's a historic rail yard just south of Colfax between I-25 and Alma, Lincoln Park. It really doesn't matter there as far as the site, but this isn't just a rumor. I mean, the Broncos agreed to buy 58 acres of this site for about $46 million. They've submitted the plans. The idea is that the stadium will be built by 2031. With a retractable roof. I'm pumped. And here's what makes it bigger than just a football stadium. We're talking about 150 acres of mixed-use development. Housing, restaurants, retail, entertainment parks. It's not just gonna be 10 Sundays a year. It's gonna be a part of this city. And I think, you know, adding a world-class retractable roof stadium means Super Bowls, major concerts, international events. I mean, the surrounding neighborhood, it means jobs, housing, economic activity. That's a big, big deal. The Ball Arena project, not too far away, right next door to the River Mile project, which we'll get into. You got Kroenke Sports, who own the Nuggets, the Colorado Avalanche, the Rapids. They own these sports teams, if you're not familiar. They got the green light to redevelop 55 acres of what is currently just parking lots, just a flat sea of parking lots. Phase 1 construction starts this May of 2026, here in a month. That's not someday, that's literally next month. The first phase, it's going to include a hotel, a new performance venue, 300 residential units, with buildings going up to about 13 stories. The full build out, we're talking 6,000 housing units, 1,000 of them designated for affordable. You have 12 million square feet of residential, office, retail, and entertainment space, all sorts of stuff going on there. You got a central park, you've got a reimagined RTD station, you've got pedestrian connections to downtown and the South Platte River. You're talking about this walkability factor and this character of Denver that is right now missing. In exchange, the Nuggets and Avalanche are committed to also staying in Denver until at least 2050. That's pretty awesome to know that they'll be here for another 20 years at least. And as this is happening, the city prioritizes people over parking lots. Like, let's get people moving around. And that's actually happening. Added to all of this is the River Mile project. So right now we have Elitch Gardens, which is a great downtown amusement park that will still be in Denver somewhere. But that Denver amusement park is being relocated to make room for, again, what's being called this River Mile project. And this is another massive mixed-use development right along the South Platte River. Something that I wish Denver had was like a walking river walk area. We don't have anything like that. Well, this project will add homes, shops, parks, office space, green space, designed around walkability and sustainability. It's designed to give Denver something it has honestly always been missing, and that is this riverfront district. We don't have it. So if you've been to a river walk in San Antonio or Pittsburgh, that's kind of the concept that Denver wants and has never had. Now, again, we don't have as much water as Pittsburgh or as San Antonio, but I mean, that's really where this is going. And again, these three projects that I would talk about are going to change Denver forever, and I believe for the better. And then a cool thing that I would add is the fact that Denver just added a new National Women's Soccer League team, the expansion team called the Summit FC, excuse me. They just had their initial game at Empower Field where the Broncos play, Mile High Stadium, and they drew a crowd of 63,000 people. That's a league record, pretty solid. They've already secured land for a dedicated stadium over in Santa Fe Yards, so not far from downtown. That'll give us 6 professional teams. I mean 5 if you want to call the Rockies a minor league team. I kid, I love the Colorado Rockies. And in the metro of 3 million people, that's pretty rare, it's pretty cool. So what does that tell you? That tells you, all these projects, that tells you that investors are looking at Denver, that more and more people are looking at this city, planning on making a move. They're bringing their money here. That is a positive sign. So here's the bottom line at the end of the day. Is Denver a perfect city? No. No perfect city exists. The cost of living is above average. The traffic will test your patience. You're going to hear about crimes in certain areas. There are policy debates that frustrate people regardless of your politics. But I can tell you after living here for the majority, I would say all of, but 12 of my years of life, and after leaving and coming back and after helping hundreds of people make this move, Denver rewards people who invest in it. It rewards people who really lean into the city. The city is actively improving. The data supports it. The development supports it. The energy of the communities supports it. So if you want a city with all 4 seasons, you want access to world-class outdoor recreation, you want access to a growing food culture, professional sports, strong job markets, welcoming communities, like genuine quality of life if you embrace it, Denver is going to be near the top of your list. And if you have questions about this video, about the housing market, about things to do around Denver, that's a perfect opportunity to hit me up. The number and email on your screen. Just know that I am always here to be a resource if and when I can be one. In the meantime, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I am your host, Jimmy Everett. That was moving to Denver, Colorado. What is it really like living here in 2026? Till I see you next time, peace.